coming back to you with another interesting live stream that I'm not quite sure where it's going to go to, but I do have an idea for this one, and it's more about short-term goals. To kind of expand on what we were talking about yesterday. Yesterday we talked a bit about long-term goals and why they were important. We also talked about how it is crucially important to be able to prioritize them so that you can determine whether or not you should continue pursuing them for a short period of time. So I have a beautiful classic case in which I need new short-term goals. Like I said last time, I just ended up taking the PE, the Professional Engineers Exam, and after finishing that test, I didn't know what to do with myself. And that's because I set up my schedule. I set up so many things around taking this test in the long and the short term that right when it was over, I had no idea what I was going to do next. So I got out of the test. Took forever to get out of the parking lot. Not everybody's fault, but definitely somebody's fault. Got back to my house, and I knew what I wanted to do, but I was too tired to do it, so I didn't do that. And then, after that, I realized, well, my meal prep ran out, so I have to cook. And all of my clothes are washed and everything's clean because I spent the day before doing that. But I had nothing on the schedule to do the day after the exam. It wasn't even a priority right before the exam. The day after the exam didn't matter because then I'd be able to figure it out the day after the exam. I did have a few things that I did need to do in the short term, a couple errands I needed to run, but ultimately I had nothing going on that day. So Friday night, gone. Saturday, it was a pretty good day because I had some stuff to do, but Sunday I had no idea. Spent the entire morning trying to figure out what I was going to do for the rest of the day and kind of restructure my week. So I was able to kind of make some really short-term goals, get some really short-term things done. Like what I did that day was I made sure all the clothes were done and ready for Monday. I cooked, I cleaned the apartment thoroughly, things like that along those lines. I also got ready to do some updates on a couple of projects that I'm working on, and a few things that I just want to work on in general, like reading and whatnot, things along those lines, reading and learning a different language. So I was able to work towards those goals, and I was able to set myself up to where my Sunday wasn't completely unproductive. Because if I didn't do that, I know me, my time would have gone to something that I really don't care about. So my short-term goal list completely ran out. Like completely ran out for an entire day. I had no idea what my goals were for an entire day. And I had to reassess and redetermine everything. Oh well, that's his problem now. So what did I determine to do? I determined, based off of my long-term goals, what my short-term goals were going to be. So I don't have an in-detail, in-depth schedule of exactly what I would like to do at the end of the day every day now yet, but that's what I plan on doing today as well, because that's part of my extreme short-term goals, is to set up my short-term goals in accordance with my long-term goals. So what are some of my long-term goals? Well, the main one that you know about right now is to become a professional engineer. In order to do that, I took the PE license test, the Professional Engineers Exam, and the next step is going to be recording all of the different projects that I've been associated with, which required a PE to oversee me, which were interesting, in which case I solved problems and was able to do something to add value to my company, to the public, etc. And I may start getting a list like that together, maybe by expanding my resume, depending on how it all goes. So that's what I have as one of my major long-term goals. That also means I'm going to be taking on more personal and interesting and special projects at work. So I'm going to be taking on things that need to be done, and I'm going to be spending some extra time doing that. I still need to work on my own personal goals, so I'm not going to spend all of my time at work, but it does mean that I will spend a little bit extra time getting in what I need to do in order to do my job, as well as including doing my job of adding value, and then also in addition and on top of that, adding additional value wherever I can. And that's more for me, to gain my experience and become a better engineer in general. So that's one of my long-term goals. Another one is to work on these personal projects, and you probably hear it all the time: personal projects, personal projects, personal projects. Well, when I say personal projects, that's very huge and general range. I have a few personal projects that I want to be physical. That can include woodworking, things with metalwork, a few different 3D printing projects, a couple of modeling projects, things along those lines I have set up for that. I have a few design projects that I'd like to work on, that I'd like to expand upon, and I have a few in theory projects that I'd like to just think about and draw out to their natural conclusion, which is ultimately going to be, no, you can't do that, Ryan, which is how most of them turn out, but some of them turned out pretty cool, pretty interesting. I also have a couple of different things that I like to learn. So one interesting fact is I'm learning Spanish right now through Duolingo. It's just this interesting little app that helps me learn Spanish words, and helps me just kind of get into the groove of being able to say things or hear things in Spanish. My goal is to be fluent, and once I feel comfortable enough with my base knowledge, I'll start interacting with some of the people at work who do speak Spanish as their first language. So, and then I'll start asking to talk to them in that language, probably in that language, just to keep up the practice and be able to discuss things, maybe even on projects, to where I can relay things in Spanish. I think it'd be kind of cool, legit even. So that's one major thing. And learning, I'm also learning web development. Not sure where it goes. I just really enjoy programming and really enjoy problem solving and creating products. So it's just something that I personally enjoy doing. So I don't mind spending my own personal time learning how it's done and how other people have done it. Maybe it'll lead to some type of side job or company, but right now it's just for me and my personal interest in the subject. I can't say that I've built a lot yet, but I will pretty soon say that I've built and had plenty of projects. So that is also coming, and that's probably one thing that you'll be able to see pretty soon. So yeah, there you go. That's one of those other updates. So those are some of my long-term projects. Long-term goals is to become a professional engineer and get my PE license, is to continue my personal projects and continue learning. And I also read books, which is also part of my own personal long and short-term goals. So I use something like those, things like those, in order to direct what my short-term goals are going to be like. So in order to learn more about web development, I have to obviously web develop something. What I'm going to do in the short term is spend maybe an hour or so a day looking at and replicating different sites and techniques. Today I'm going to try and jump into the Grid, CSS Grid, which I think looks pretty cool. It's like this ridiculously user-friendly way of making websites without having to break HTML every time. So look into it if you're interested, and it's just a fantastic, absolutely fantastic way in order to get myself back into the web development kind of mindset. So I also have a couple of different sites that I subscribe to and a few different things that I'm going through in order to learn that myself. So it's something that I'm pretty excited about, something that I couldn't wait to get back to whenever I was studying for the PE. And now today, I finally placed it into the schedule. It's going to happen, and I'm going to start learning about it a little bit more again. So I'm pretty excited about it. I also do other types of learning, like back before. Anyway, that's one way that I'm making my long-term goals into short-term goals. So right now I'm learning CSS Grid, and then I'm going to use that in order to further build out meanopdesign.com in order to be able to have experience in doing so, as well as to express my own personal ideas and beliefs with my own self-made stand, which I find pretty freaking awesome personally. So that's just how that is. Yeah, another example of how I'm turning long-term goals into smaller short-term goals is reading. I have long-term goals, meaning I want to read at least a book every month. Ultimately to have at least 12 books every year, and that's the minimum, right? So my short-term goals is I read at least 30 minutes a day. It's nothing too crazy, but it's the bare minimum at least. And I do catch-ups on the weekends, and I lay out a good chunk of time in order to do that. So whenever I'm doing these catch-ups, it's maybe hour, 2 where I just read. I enjoy it, and I'm the type of person who falls asleep while reading. It's not that I find it boring, it's just that I'm such a slow reader that I can't get very exciting before I can't. You know, I can't get to the exciting part before I fall asleep. That's just kind of how that is. But I am working on it with this long-term goal of becoming a stronger reader by reading at least 1 book a month. That's one other example. I'm also learning Spanish through this app, and going to, once I get to a level that is comfortable, which is I'm going to catch up to where I was previously in learning Spanish, and be able to describe a couple of things personally. So I have challenges that I've set up for myself in order to learn a little bit more every single day and be able to actually express that in the actual language, so that I'm talking while learning Spanish, which is a huge deal. So if you got anything from this, which maybe you didn't because it was all jumbled up, it's that you should try and convert your long-term goals into shorter-term goals, and take it a bite at a time. It doesn't have to be anything ridiculous or anything crazy. You don't want to be doing too much at one time, which is why prioritization is a really huge deal, which maybe we'll talk about tomorrow. And you just have to understand what do you want to get out of this, and where do you want to go, because like I said, time is going to pass regardless of what you're doing. So you can either be working towards something, you can be passive, or you can be working away from something. And personally, I set up these short-term goals so that I'm always working towards something. Regardless of whether or not it's where I actually need to be in the future, we'll find that out, but at least I'm going somewhere, and having a plan and moving in a direction is better than staying still. So I guess that's it. Until next time, thank you for enjoying my beautiful, luxurious voice and my beautiful, voluptuous beard, and I hope that you have a great day. Peace.